So start. Okay. Welcome at this session of the Internet Governance Forum Dynamic Coalition on Internet Standards. We had to change the program a bit, and we're going to change it again at this moment because none of my speakers are online except for one. We all had to arrange this at the very last moment, and we don't know what happened. Perhaps they'll join in a minute. We are the Dynamic Coalition on Internet Standard Security and Safety, or IS3C, and our main aim is to try and make the internet more secure and safer by making sure that the new generation of internet standards are deployed mostly by industry. And let me introduce myself first, because I always have a tendency to forget that. But no, we don't have a microphone. So this is it. The only thing I have is this for online people. My name is Wouter Natris, and I'm a consultant based in Haarlem in the Netherlands, and I'm the coordinator of this Dynamic Coalition on Internet Standards. Next to me is Mark Ravel, who is our senior policy advisor. And together we have built IS3C over the past 4 years since the virtual IGF of 2020, when we were instituted. I think that over the past 4 years, we have lived up to our promise. And our first promise to the world was that we would make a good inventarization of where the current situation is. And that is not encouraging where security of the internet is concerned, where internet standards are concerned. We have reported on IoT security by design. We have reported on procurement and supply chain management. Are organizations buying secure by design, or are they buying off the shelf? We have looked into education and skills. Are tertiary cybersecurity institutions actually teaching the latest standards? We have built tools in the past 2 years. We have built a tool where every organization can buy secure by design for the most important internet standards that are there. And we're building a tool assisting technical people in organizations to convince their CEOs and board members to procure secure by design or to deploy standards. Because obviously that has not been working very well in the past 30 years. So what sort of arguments do you need to use when you're talking to people who decide on investment, and not on whether it's technical secure or not, but that it's better for a company to be secure for different reasons? So that is what tool that we're currently working on, and we hope to finish somewhere after this summer. And we're going to look into, hopefully later this year, into consumer protection. And that was the original topic of this meeting. But unfortunately, the people who were supposed to attend were not able to attend, so we had to reschedule. That the idea is that when consumer organizations start testing tools, when they look at a tool, it's now about, does it work right? Does it do what it promises to do? But there's also usually nowadays an IoT component. And do they test that as well? When they test banks, do they test whether banks are secure, where the online environment is concerned? If they don't, then you miss a very important part of this modern world. So in other words, that is the sort of topic that we would like to tackle in the coming time, that consumer organizations are able to test products also on the online environment and not just on the offline usability of it. Another topic we would like to tackle, and that is something that is a little bit further away perhaps, but what do consumer protection agencies actually do at this point in time, where consumer protection of the digital environment is concerned? So what are rules like duty of care? For example, what could they do to protect consumers in a better way? is that an approach that could actually put a pressure on industry to deploy these sort of standards when consumer protection agencies start to address that topic from that angle. And that is something, as far as we are concerned, has not happened before. So what are we talking about? We are talking about internet standards. And these internet standards make it possible that we are connecting to everything and everybody at this moment. And they were created over 30 years ago. At that time, there were a few universities in the US that were connected to each other and the US military. And that was about it. So when they discussed these standards, apparently they did discuss, do we need to be secure? And they started laughing, more or less. Why? Because we know each other, right? So why should we need to be secure? And then somebody in the Netherlands found a little wire that was live and not charged and connected to that internet around 1990. So they all of a sudden was a Dutch organization. And 3 years later, the world started connecting through internet service providers with these same standards. And these are the standards that we still use today, putting a hazard to all of us, to all are used to our financial situations, to buying. We all know what sort of problems are out there. The technical community has come up with what we could call patches. You know about patching, the Microsoft, the little yellow dot is on my screen at this moment, so I have to patch somewhere today. We all know about patches. The technical community making the internet standards has made these patches as well. But for some reason, they are suboptimally and sometimes very badly deployed. That means that the domain name system, we had 2 sessions here this morning of domain name system organizations, should be patching the domain name system. The routing should be patched. The email system should be patched, and we can continue for all these other standards. If they're not patched, we as end users, everybody from big to small, remains vulnerable on the internet. And I will not go into today what the reasons are that they are not patching, but there's a multitude of them. So if it was the Indian goddess with all the hands at her back, she would be pointing at everybody except herself when they talk about who's to blame for not patching these internet standards. Fact is that if they are deployed, as the technical community calls it, we would all immediately be more secure and safer. And that goes for you behind the laptop, for you behind your mobile device, for you behind your laptops. These things are inherently insecure. And we all use them with all the hazards that come with them. So what we will try to tell anyway, the fact that I think still the people are not online, is that we have different teams working on working groups, as we call them. The first working group is on IoT by design. The second is education and skills. The third one is procurement. The fourth one is internal, that's on strategy and on communication. We have a tooling working group that is finished on the tools that will be made on internet standards. We have a working group on data governance that is waiting to publish its report because the UN is waiting apparently for a venue to present it. 7 is the future one on consumers. Number 8 is the tool on arguments. And number 9 is on artificial intelligence. 3 of them have published reports and have plans for the future. And it's these plans that we hope to present to you today to show what it is that this dynamic coalition wants to do. So to support the actual steps toward deployment, we have come up with a concept. And that concept is secure by design. And if we can convince, and with me, and don't just mean this dynamic coalition, but I mean a wide range of organizations, could convince governments to start procuring their ICTs secure by design, then that would put a tremendous pressure on the ICT and IoT industry. Because if a government demands security, then a company can say, yes, but I'm not delivering that to you. But if the government then says, but then I'm not buying from you, but from somebody else, then you probably, most of them will start walking in the right direction, because otherwise they lose a major customer. And huge corporations and other bigger organizations could do the same. And then you have a front. And that front will make sure that these standards are deployed in the near future. And if consumers start asking the same questions, then we have everybody on board. So in other words, this is about forming a front, and that front needs support, needs funding. That's what Mark will tell about what we need. What we intend to do at this moment is that we want to be able to build another tool, a tool that gives organizations information on how to procure IoT secure by design. What should be in an IoT device? And I think that you can find that around the world already, but is it delivered to the right persons with the right arguments, with the right, in the right place? So that is something that we want to work on. The same for education and skills. And I think that Janice Richardson, who is ill, I just got an email saying that she's ill and can't participate today, but she sent a slide. So perhaps I can share my screen so I can show that to you. So let me have a look. How does it work for me? Share the screen. My name, De Natris. So I have it on here. And I have to put it on, right?
Yes.
Okay. Let me have a look. Share, yeah, found it. Share. Yeah?
Yeah.
It's up there. Yeah, I can see it myself now. Thank you. So Janice has a dream, and that dream is to build a hub. And even has a logo already, whether that's the final logo, that's another thing. But somebody's working on a video even for this hub. And what do we want to do with this hub? That is close the knowledge gap between industry and tertiary cybersecurity education. What we found in our research and that we published on our website is that there is in some countries a gap of about 20 years about what is being taught and what it is that industry needs. So in other words, there's a total mismatch of what is being taught in most of our schools. So how can we close that? And what we hope to do in this Dynamics Coalition is to bring the right people together in this hub to start discussing how to solve and close the gap. So that is one side. One side is bring people together from tertiary education, from industry, from governments or ministries of education probably, and people from the technical community around the internet to make sure that they understand what the need is. And then discuss how to close this gap, because the teachers will probably need to have an education or new education, maybe some other sort of teachers have to be brought in. But it's something that needs to happen. If our youth in schools do not learn the latest cybersecurity standards, for example, then how can you expect them to work with them when they move into companies that have to produce cybersecurity? The second thing that we found in this research is that more and more women are leaving the cybersecurity environment. And that leads to all sort of different sort of decisions. It leads to other sort of insights, other ways of learning. So how can we make sure that this work environment is interesting for women as well? But the third thing is that youth is not signing up to these educations anymore. So we have an older and older population working in cybersecurity apparently, and that needs to change as well. So perhaps that needs to already be done in secondary education to make sure that young persons understand why cybersecurity is important, but B, that you have an interesting career in cybersecurity. So that is what we will try to achieve and that we are searching funding for. But the end result would have to be more up-to-date education, which aligns with the demands from society and the cybersecurity industry. Make this a lot more attractive for young people and for women, and to make sure that the greater diversity comes to the workforce. So, in other words, that is the dream of working group 2 of us, education and skills. And I'll stop sharing my screen now. That the other one is on IoT security. As I said, and I'm talking a lot because, as I explained, as far as I can see, the people are not present in the call. Is that where IoT is concerned? This is the screen I'm looking for, but yes, so I can. So on IoT, as I said, we did this global comparison of policy. And this policy showed that where government documents are concerned, there were not a lot of them specifying on IoT. When they are there, it's all voluntary. So it's an inventory of what IoT is. And in some cases, they say it would be good if you would in the future do this or that. But there's no obligations, there's no mandatory obligations to actually make IoT more secure. So what we will try to do is A, see if there are any updates of the past 2 years, but B, is to come up with a tool that would help organizations procure secure by design and teach procurement officers to actually use these sort of tools. So that is what we aim to do in 2024, 2025. The same goes for procurement. What we want to do is come up with a tool that any organization can use when it wants to procure ICT. An ICT in the broadest sense possible, a new email system, a new coffee machine with an IoT component, etc., etc. So that is where we are and where we want to move to. Are there any questions? And then I'll go to Julia, who is online and will present from a totally different angle, as you will find. Any questions in between? It's all clear. Does it make sense what I'm saying? Or is it so new that... No?
It seems so obvious that why there's so little traction. It must be very frustrating because I know you've been doing this for a long time, but why does it resonate? Why does it not resonate more with everyone because it's so important?
I don't know if people online or in the room got the question, because everybody was repeating it. So the question is, why is it not getting so much traction, as this is an extremely important topic? Yeah, that's the big question I have as well. I have no clue. But the fact is that we don't get the traction, we don't get the funding, and why, I really don't know. We talk to a lot of people, and it's extremely important, but funding, it seems to be very, very hard, but that's something that happens to everything in every internet governance, so in that sense it's not unique. But we're working on it, and there are these huge proposals that we sent in the past months to organizations, so hopefully that will allow us to start working in 2025 again. Please introduce yourself.
My name is Idan from ISOC. I wanted to ask if how do these initiatives relate to an online platform, not only generally internet side consumers' security rights, but also much more complicated when we talk about consumers, and sometimes the platform consumers are actually the businesses, not the users. They are the consumers. They are the consumers because they pay for the service, not users. So we have in our country a very big issue with online fraud and security with businesses, small businesses using online platforms, especially Facebook, Instagram, and they get zero attention, zero service. There's no regulation, and I think consumer organizations, they don't know how to deal with this situation. So, do you have in mind also this kind of advice?
This topic is as broad as we make it. That's certainly true. Where the first thing we need to do is get the traction with the consumer organizations, and we have found that. That's the first step. The next step is how to actually involve them, because these are the global and the European networks that we've attracted, and they're interested in this topic, so they are supporting. The next step is to involve the national consumer organizations. Where the topics are concerned, we decided to start with IoT. But from there, if we get the traction there, then it will be easy to set up the next topic and the next topic. And what the next topic is, that will have to be decided by the community. But yes, you're right. These are the sort of things that are not regulated, but they're a hazard to users. So how can you make sure that users become aware of that hazard? And what is next is what can they actually do to prevent themselves from harm? And that's where organizations like consumer organizations, also consumer protection organizations, could play a role, which at this point, for most of them probably are unfamiliar because they don't know about the topic or don't have the people on board. And that's the sort of tooling that we hope to develop together so that they can teach their own personnel to work with the tools. But that will mean that from a different mindset for different organizations probably, and that's the challenge that we'll be facing. But the first step is find the funding to actually make sure the tools are built.
Train or educate first the lobby groups or the organizations,
right,
before you go to their target audience.
Right, and they will have to go to the target audience because that's an impossible situation for us. But if they get taught, and that's the idea, first to come up with the tool, then find the funding to train them. But once we have the tool, I'm sure that we will find the funding with them for the training. But we have to find the funding for the tool first, and that's already a challenge.
We also see very low traction, very low interest. Also, we talk about regulating bodies, authorities, things like that, like online consumerism.
Yeah,
like real consumerism.
You have to get on their agenda somehow, and that's what I'm slowly working on at this moment. But you have to get on their agenda, and that's the biggest challenge maybe, because once it's on the agenda, then there's funding, and that's the main challenge. So yes, thank you for the question. Anybody else? Okay, then we have online Julia Piechna from NASK in Poland, the Research Institute and the local CSIRT in Poland. Julia is going to present from a totally different angle. Julia's organization, NASK, has co-funded the Education and Skills Working Group. And next, they translated the report into Polish and took up the recommendation and are working on building a hub in Poland. So I won't tell anything more, Julia, before I say everything. So if you have any slides, I think you're allowed to share your screen. There's a yes, you have a remote moderator. So please, Julia, the floor is yours.
Yes, good morning. I hope that you can see me, and yes, you can see me for sure, but I hope that you can hear me. Okay, yes. Perfect. I don't have any slides. I just have thoughts on in my head and also in my notes. So yes, as Wood said, I will present our approach. I would say that quite broad, and our role, the role of our institution that plays in consumer protection against cyber threats, and also raising awareness and their skills to make better informed decisions and choices while using new technologies. And a few words about our institution. NASK is a national research institute based in Poland, and actually we connected Poland to the internet over 30 years ago. And today, NASK is also a register of internet domains, but also an entity that is responsible for many issues related to digitization and cybersecurity. I would say that cybersecurity is our main goal. In the national cybersecurity system, NASK is responsible as CSIRT, so Computer Security Incident Response Team. So we are responsible for cybersecurity of everyone except the army and government institutions. What else? A very important element of this is building awareness of the importance of cybersecurity threats and the appropriate staff of experts who will meet the increasingly greater challenges. We also carry out activities for children safety online, conducting educational and awareness-raising campaigns, and also training initiatives that are addressed not only to children and young people, but also the entire environment around them, so parents, educators, psychologists, and also police officers. We also respond to child sexual abuse materials online. And in 2023, our hotline team received more than 7,000 such reports. And in recent years, we have managed to train thousands of people, but we never train blindly. We always provide dedicated training and courses. And for this reason, the IS3C coalition report that Vod described a few minutes ago, entitled Closing the Gap between taught skills and practical needs in cybersecurity, is very valuable for us. Understanding the importance the cybersecurity sector and universities, tertiary education attached to transversal and professional competencies, as well as the level of competencies of young people entering the cybersecurity labor market, gives us an opportunity to implement applicable programs that will improve the difficult situation on the market, on the cybersecurity market. This report has been translated into Polish, and so far the conclusions, recommendations, and outcomes of the study have been an important element of number of NASK's activities. For example, we presented them to students and their lecturers at 6 large universities in Poland, but by organizing numerous lectures and workshops. It also supports us also in the preparation of a study program in cybersecurity management at the Silesian University of Technology and at the University of Silesia. These are quite big universities in Poland. And actually now, not far ago, we started the project under Digital Europe program, which aim is to develop and implement a highly innovative and effective graduate program in cybersecurity. This program will be prepared in accordance with the European cybersecurity skills framework, and also it is in accordance with recommendations that come from IS3C research report. What else? Of a particular importance of this comprehensive approach to the training of highly specialized cybersecurity management experts, which has a key impact of effectively addressing the growing cybersecurity skills gap that threatens the stability of many European industries and public sector institutions. Also, we organized a multilateral workshop during IGF Poland last year where together with students, with representatives of students, academia, private and public sector, we discussed how to make our hub, the cybersecurity hub that what described, because we are cooperating with this area as well, how to make it more vivid and widely implemented and able to develop, because this is a constant process. What else? We are now entering into increasingly better and closer cooperation with the Chamber of Attorneys at Law and barristers. So we also try to have a large influence on the legislation implemented, which is why we work out our opinions and recommendations to the ministries responsible for them, primarily the Ministry of Digital Affairs. And what is very important also, we have established the Partnership of Cybersecurity, a new platform where we systematically meet with both private and public entities to exchange knowledge and defend ourselves better and more effectively against cybersecurity attacks. And this year, we are also planning to hold a meeting with the rectors of all Polish universities and present the issue of teaching cybersecurity as a priority for the coming years. Of course, very important for us is to continue collaboration with the IGF, both at a national and also global level, to better present this issue. We are looking for a leader on the business side that will be a permanent support for universities. And maybe the last one, we also plan to take advantages of mobilization of entrepreneurs in industry in connection with the implementation of the NIS2 directive. So yes, to sum up, I have no doubt that during or through these activities, we see a great need for cooperation between the educational and industrial sectors at every stage. So yes, thank you.
And thank you, Julia. I think it shows that the work that we do can be taken up and changed into practice in a country, in this sense, Poland, in this example. Is there a question for Julia? There's no hands here. I don't see any online, so thank you, Julia. In the meantime, my two other speakers have joined. So I am inviting Liz Orembo from Nairobi in Kenya to speak first on the procurement and supply chain management. So Liz, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Walt. And I hope you can hear me okay.
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Liz Orembo. I work for Research ICT Africa, which is based in South Africa, but I work remotely in Nairobi as a research fellow. And I'm also an individual member of the IS3C working group. And I'm a co-lead of the procurement working group. So in this presentation, I'm going to present the work that we did last year. We conducted the research last year, and what we hope to do as a follow-up from the recommendations on what we found. So as we all know, procurement largely shapes what is produced in the market, and the market also has a large influence on how security is going to be embedded in the design of our networks and in the design of the devices. Basically, the protection layer of the internet and technology. Much of it procurement has a lot to do with how that is designed in the technologies that we use. So our research mainly entailed how internet security standards are embedded in procurement practices. And how we did this was to look at different public procurement documents from different countries, from different regions, and any other consortium that is working on open cybersecurity standards, embedded that into procurement. So how did we go about this? We asked members of our coalition, which is a membership of with different countries, cybersecurity experts from different countries, to share documents and also to contribute to the initial findings of this research. So we went into digging into what the composition of procurement documents from different entities, and mostly public procurement entities, and also regional entities such as EU, African Union, and any other. Without delving much into that and taking time, I'll share findings. So the first question we ask is, are security standards being used in procurement? And the short answer of that is that, yes, they're somehow being used, but they are unevenly being used unevenly in terms of country use, regional use, and industry use. And why am I saying so? It's because in some regions, and Africa to be specific, we weren't able to find specific documents touching on procurement standards as regards to cybersecurity. We found some sketchy ones in Europe region, and we also found some significant initiatives that were trying to drive cybersecurity through procurement of ICT services and ICT devices. One of those was ENISA, which also had developed guidelines on procurement of healthcare services, IT healthcare services, which is very broad and can also be used in other industries. We also found country examples that dug into into procurement and cybersecurity standards, and actually using open standards in the different international bodies being developed there to actually embed them in their policy work and develop guidelines of those. We had examples of those are UK government using some of those in their guidelines, policy guidelines. We also have the Dutch ministry and some sort of standards also being used by Italy. That's for European region. While we also found a strong emphasis of standards in procurement was in the US region. That's the United States, where they have different standards bodies actively interacting with the international standards bodies and putting that into their procurement standards as well. And I think from here it's a very good framework through which the national standards bodies works with the different agencies within that those governments to ensure that the procurement of the tools that they're procuring follows open cybersecurity, international cybersecurity standards. But what are the weaknesses that we are also seeing despite the unevenness in the use of these standards? First of all, the success of open standards is measured by how they're being taken in by different institutions and different bodies. And generally, globally, there's a very slow uptake of these standards by public institutions. We didn't go much into private sector, though that would be a wish that we would want to have a scope in with this research, but we didn't go much into that. So despite that uneven use, there's also a challenge of how to frame these standards in procurement documents. and also a challenge of how they are going to work interoperably from one institution to another, from one country to another. A common trend that we saw in how these procurement standards are being incorporated was one to ensure continuity in services and interoperability in service. So you'll find one document stressing that where the procurement is involved from a foreign company, then they should ensure that continuity in product once that service is delivered in that institution, and even the updates, frequent updates, is being done automatically. Where there's attacks, then they can call in, they have a contact person to call from the distributor of that digital service or tool to ensure that there's a good response from there. Another challenge that we highlighted from this research is coordination among industry and public agency in how these standards are being applied. So stakeholders are working in silos. You have standard bodies developing this thing in silos, and when they are published, there's no much publicity around them and even awareness around them for their uptake. So that causes the slowness in the uptake of these standards. Another one, general public procurement regulation do not give provision of guidelines to ensure cybersecurity standards. This is fine, but they also don't give direction for the development of frameworks to enhance cybersecurity. So when you have public procurement guidelines, there's a limitation or some sort of misunderstanding that cybersecurity guidelines are just for cybersecurity devices, but they don't follow the whole framework in the supply chain of that. Some insist that where there should be a cybersecurity guidelines, it should be about continuity of devices, so that if an institution started with an Oracle sets of devices for their data needs, then it should follow the same standards. And that's where also interoperability challenges also come in.
Liz, sorry, I can give you 1 more minute.
Okay, so that's it for the finding. And I will talk about our future work now that we identify a slow uptake in those, and the challenge also being that slow awareness, lack of knowledge on how to incorporate these standards into procurement documents. Then it follows that our next action of work is to how to convert this research that we have into training modules. And that is our next focus of work. And this training will be geared towards procurement stakeholders, people in procurement, and even people doing policies, so that we actually market or publicize what open standards are there and how they can be incorporated into procurement bodies. So that's our next line of action with this. Thank you, Wout.
Thank you, Liz. I think we've shown quite well how we want to translate our outcomes into a training module in the end, so that this is a tool that the whole world can use to actually make us all more secure and safer. The next speaker is João Falcao. He's from Brazil, and he will talk us through our plans on Internet of Things, security by design, and what we would like to do in the near future. João, the floor is yours.
Hello, hi, thank you, Wout. Well, I work with cybersecurity, and in the past, we had we developed a project to understand the cybersecurity standards regarding IoT. So we gathered documents from 30 different countries around the globe, and we understood how each country was dealing with cybersecurity in this. And what we try to achieve is to understand their common path that they are developing, their projects, and how we can make these standards talk to each other, because when we have global companies that are developing devices from all of these countries, they need to understand that we are going to a common fold, that we are planning that one device built for a specific set of regulations must adhere to all of them. And we try to understand if they are similar, if this project could really be implemented. And now that we understood, we developed a reasonable report about this, and now we are preparing this new work line. So what we discussed internally is that we are facing a new challenge. So internet connected devices used to be divided into two different groups. Well, the first group it was controlled by networking companies. So this group had trained people to manage their machines. Most of these machines were from the same vendor, and so they could coordinate updates, coordinate security patches and security configurations. And well, the second group was made by users like, well, you and me. And in a couple of years ago, we controlled a really small set of computers, like the notebook, well, a laptop or a PC. And as we control these devices, we used to manage them directly and interact only with it. So we developed a bigger knowledge on how they work, and we felt that these devices were really part of what we need to do, like our responsibility of ours. And with the development of IoT, what we are seeing right now is that we have like a reasonable amount of devices. Let me put as like 10. And all of these 10 devices have different brands. They have different operational systems. They have different configuration applications. And this is becoming very difficult to handle. If you need to update them all, you will have to switch by 10 different apps, understand them, and they all have their particularities on how you can update them or not, how you can modify them. And in the end, we actually don't manage. So we have like 10 different ways to connect to the internet, and these are majorly autonomous. We interact in the limits of their functionalities and not in the deep way that we would need to do to really control them and understand what we need to do to make them safe. So our next project will be totally focused on that. We will dive into how to make cybersecurity interoperable in the IoT developing world. So this will be reasonable research, and in the end, we really want to connect different vendors, different countries to show how we are going to gain a lot having these kinds of devices security interoperable. As we did, well, as in the beginning, the early stages of the internet, everyone understood how the interoperability to communication was essential. We are facing cybersecurity challenges right now, and the next step is really go to interoperability in cybersecurity.
Okay, thank you very much, Joao. I think that what he shows is that this is not just about security, but also about being in control of the devices that you own. And that is a totally different challenge than just security. So thank you, Joel. That brings us to working towards a conclusion. I take it that we can go 10 minutes longer than, because we had to lose 10 minutes to the future. And Mark Ravel is going to present a little bit on our plans for 2024, 25, and 26, and how we hope to achieve them. Mark.
Yes, thank you, Bart. IS3C is one of 32 dynamic coalitions. These are intersessional activities conducted by volunteers, all our team leaders you heard today. They're volunteering their time and in order to work together and in pursuit of an objective, which is, as we heard, it's all about ensuring that the online world is more secure and safer through more effective and wider deployment of cybersecurity standards. So they've been doing fantastic work. I've been with Wout on this project since the start. As you said, we launched the Dynamic Coalition at the virtual IGF in 2020, and that was taking forward work that Wout had led on a project basis for the IGF in the previous 2 years, before the 2 years or so, wasn't it? It's quite a lot of time. We had some launch funding thanks to the Swiss government, and for some of the project work over the last 3 to 4 years, we've had individual amounts of money to fund specific areas of activity. But it's been a bit unpredictable, our funding. And this is we've encountered really a challenge that many dynamic coalitions face. And that is that without any support from the IGF or from the UN, because dynamic coalitions aren't funded by the IGF or receiving any money from the UN budget or from the financial resources that the IGF have. That's not the way dynamic coalitions are funded. It's purely through efforts to reach out to potential sponsors and organizations that provide grant funding for areas of research. So it's been a struggle, really. It's something that we face. A lot of the work that's been done, for example, Zhao's work on IoT standards and policies, that required a lot of research, and members of research teams were put together to collate data, analyze policy documents from around the world, and to set up a team like that requires some funding, because you would need to remunerate members of research teams who are doing that kind of work. So it's constrained us really in how we go about the work, and we've been giving this some thought, and we've talked to people about how to address this problem. One or two dynamic coalitions have partnered with organizations like ISOC chapters and so on, and got predictable flows of funding from that kind of source. We haven't been able to identify a partner on a long-term basis like that. And so we've come round to the possible other options, that we reconstitute the coalition on a more organized basis as a not-for-profit foundation. This is what we're thinking of. This would enable us, if we were reconstituted in that way, perhaps with an independent board of directors, we would be able to manage and receive funding from potential donors or sponsors or grant providers on a firmer basis. You know, we would have a dedicated corporate bank account, and we would be able to exercise financial management for the foundation on that basis. We'd have audited accounts and so on. We don't have that kind of institutional setup because we're just really coming together as volunteers without any kind of constitutional basis to set up a bank account even. So this is what we're thinking, and we're quite ambitious in terms of the scope of the work. We've explained at the beginning that we want to set up a work stream on consumer protection and the kind of issues that we would investigate. So we're expanding the scope of our work, the range of activities, and this requires some effective management oversight. We may need legal advice for looking at particular issues. And so then that argues for some more formalized constitutional basis for the work. So we're open to ideas, and around the sort of concept of a not-for-profit foundation basis. And that's why we want to talk to people like you, or if you know people that we should talk to, who are perhaps involved in projects which are funded through some formal arrangement, like a not-for-profit basis, that would inform our decision taking. So that's basically where we are to take this important work forward. I mean, it's frustrating, really, that we talk to so many people and say, "Oh, you're doing valuable, important work. More power to you to do that." But we don't need just power and goodwill. We need actually funding to undertake the kind of supporting activities and administrative support, secretariat support that an operation, an initiative like this requires. So if you've got any thoughts on that, any relevant experience to impart, or know people that we should talk to, it would be great to hear that. And that's my basic message on securing the future of this coalition and putting it on a more formally constituted basis, so we attract the kind of funding we need and can manage and take on areas of work that might require some legal basis or whatever. I'll stop there, Wout. Was there anything
thank you, Mark.
you wanted to add to that?
No, I don't. I do want to ask a question. Does it make sense for a dynamic coalition, in your opinion, if you have one, because it's probably very new, to institutionalize? Because what the experience in the room on this? No, we see deep silence. Well, that's exactly what we encounter, because it all comes down to me when we're discussing this. And
well, funding is definitely always a struggle.
It's a struggle for everybody, and we are very grateful for the funding that we've had so far. I'm sharing my screen because this is where you can find our reports. Under our annual reports, also the study report. On the website, there's general information about us. If you want to join us, you can only do so through the IGF website on the dynamic coalitions. Then you will find IS3C, and with an email address, and that is only used to communicate anything about IS3C that we deploy and nothing else. But this is where we have our information. As we said,
Got the wrong, but up there on the screen is the hub.
is the hub. It should be, because I am showing, as far as I'm concerned, this. So you're seeing the hub?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
what's coming up on this.
So why is that? Because I am. Okay, I'll try again and see if that works. I'm not getting the option to hear that. Is it showing now?
Showing us.
And I don't know how to get this thing on. So you'll have to believe me that it's IS3 with a number coalition.org. I'm not able to get it on here. I'll give it one more try. But yes, is it?
Oh,
Yes.
another page. I don't know. That's the right one. Yeah.
And
Okay.
annual reports here. So that's where you can find. Any final questions? Yes. The URL is IS3, so the number 3 coalition.org.
Look in the chat.
Thank you very much.
I can put it in the chat. Thank you very much. So I'll stop sharing and put it in the chat.
I suggest that we wrap the session so that the next session can start.
Yes,
Yep.
I wanted to thank the speakers so Julia is coming online. Thank you very much, Mark, for being here, and of course the other people were not able to be present on the work that they've done in the past. Thank you for listening to us. Should you have any questions, we're around here, so please step up. Thank you.